Hi everyone, we are continuing the topic on the blessing. And I believe as we are going through every session, the understanding of the true blessing will come to us. So we have been looking at the life of Abraham. God gave him the promise at age 75. And the Bible says in Genesis 12 verse 4, so Abraham departed as the Lord spoke to him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old. When God gave him the promise, Abraham was 75, and Abraham left his father's house, left his country, and he was going to the land that God is going to show him. But what Abraham did was, when he began the journey, he took Lot with him. And as we saw in Genesis 13 verse 2, Abraham was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And Lot also went with him. Lot also had cattle and servants, and they began to grow and multiply. And then the time came when you read Genesis chapter 13 verse 7, the Bible says here, and there was strife between the herdsmen of Abraham's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle. And Abraham said unto Lot in verse 8, Lot, let there be no strife, I pray you, between you and me, and between your servants and my servants, for we are brethren. Is not the whole land before you? Separate thyself. That word, separate thyself, is very, very important. If Abraham has to walk into the promised blessings of God, he had to separate this relationship with Lot. Many times in your life and my life, we can't see the blessings of God because we are not separated from the people we need to be separated from. The attachments of the past. These attachments, as long as they are with you, you cannot see the full blessing of God over your life. Abraham realizes now, he sees we can't dwell together. So he says, Lot, let there be no strife between you and between me. Separate thyself, I pray you. If you will take the left, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. So Abraham is giving the first choice to Lot. Lot is with Abraham, and Abraham sees now that they cannot dwell together anymore. And unless he doesn't cut off this separation, he cannot move further. So Abraham is saying, Lord, you make the first choice, and if you go to the left, I'll go to the right. Or if you go to the right, I will go to the left. And the Bible says here in verse 10, and Lot lifted up his eyes, and he saw all the plain of Jordan. It was well watered everywhere. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So the land that Lot chose was like the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt. So the Bible says here, Lot chose for himself all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed there, and they separated themselves, the one from the other. Lot saw with his natural eyes, and he saw that everything that his eyes saw was beautiful, and he thought, I am going to move into that land of blessing and abundance. It's like the garden of the Lord. My family, my sheep, my cattle, we are going to increase. We are going to be blessed. Lot chose what his natural eyes saw. But the sad thing is, in verse 12, but Lot did not know he was pitching his tent near Sodom and Gomorrah. Because Sodom and Gomorrah is a land of wickedness. It's a sodomy city. And later God is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and Lot is pitching his tent very close to where sin is, very close, to where evil is. Sometimes we can make our choices and it may seem to be good. It may seem to be green and it may promise you lot of blessings. But we have to be careful where we are pitching our tent. Lot made the first choice, and Lot pitched his tent near Sodom. And then the Bible says in verse 14, and the Lord said unto Abraham after Lot was separated from him. You see, God will speak only when you make that separation. First separation in Abraham's life was when he left his people, left the idol worship, left his country, and began to walk in the blessings of God. That was the first separation. The second separation is now his nephew Lot. Because God is saying, Abraham, unless you do not cut off this connection, Abraham, I cannot show you the future. There was another separation, when you read later, Abraham and Sarah used the shortcut method, and Ishmael was born. And then God had to say, Abraham, you have to separate from Ishmael. You see, to walk in the fullness of the blessings of God, there is a process. There is a separation. What is God asking you to be separated from? What or who is holding your blessings? Know that and cut off from those people. Cut off from that past. Cut off from whatever is holding you back to walk into the blessings of God. And the Bible says here, and after Lot separated, now God is speaking. God will speak only when you cut off some things, when you let go, or when you separate yourselves. And now God is saying, Abraham, now you lift up your eyes. Lot saw with his eyes, he chose what he felt good. But now God is going to show to Abraham, the land. And God is saying, Abraham, lift up your eyes. Look now, Abraham. Where to look? Look north, south, east, west. And Abraham, for all the land which thou seest, I will give it to you and to your seed forever. After separation, you hear the voice of God. And when you hear the voice of God, it is God showing you. For Lot, it was his choice, but for Abraham, it was God's choice. And God is saying, Abraham, look at all this land. I will give it to you and to your seed. And verse 17, Genesis chapter 13, arise, walk through the walk through the land in the length of it and in the breadth of it, for I will give it to you. So you see, in Abraham's life, there is a going, there is a looking, and there is a walking. Where is God telling you to go? What is God showing you? What is God telling you? Where is God telling you to walk? Our going, our seeing, because when God is saying, Abraham, look, that means having the vision, having God's vision. What is God showing you? what is God's vision for you, and walking in it. So going, looking, and walking. When we begin to follow in the steps of Abraham, we will be more closer to the fulfillment and the completeness of the blessings of God in our lives. May God bless you. We will continue with the topic on blessings.